So this is the third take so far. Hi everyone. I wanted to put together a recording on openness. You know, the whole theme for this month in October in all of my posts and all of my social media has been on the backdrop of character and authenticity, and it's amazing when you start looking at something. Uh, so many examples pop up that speak to whatever you're paying attention to. So there's that old adage, right? That old story of you make a decision to buy a new car on a particular color, and so you start researching and focusing on that, and all of a sudden you start to see, and especially when you buy the car, you start to see so many of those cars driving around, and even in that color. It's amazing when you become pregnant. All of a sudden you start noticing how many pregnant families, women there are out there, and so it's kind of been like that for me, right? Where you put your attention, you start to see what you're looking at. It sounds almost like philosophical and ooh. So here's the thing: character and authenticity. You know, it's a big theme in my life, and that's why I chose it as a start in all of my leadership posts, and specifically around leadership, because you need strong character to be a leader. I often say to the leaders in the businesses that I work with that they don't lead widgets, they don't lead the machines that they make, they don't lead the money that the bank transacts with, they lead people. They lead the people that show up at work. So the business will hire specialists, they'll hire technically competent people to do the work, and the leaders are given the roles of leading, of taking responsibility for the experience of the people that are employed by the business, so that they show up, they do their best, they feel inspired, they are productive, that the business is successful because the people are successful, because they led well. And you need a good character for that. You need a strong character for that. You need a character that can handle test. And then linked to that for me is authenticity, because authenticity is about being real, and it's about not, well, I mean, we've all got our own take on what authenticity is. So I'm not going to sell you my version. I do have a particular view on authenticity, but really it's I mean, simply put, it's about being real, and not and being true to yourself, but not being true to your ego and your drama in your head, but about being real and being true to what's real, being true to your values, being true to the strongest parts of your character. So that's the backdrop. And by the way, when I started recording this little video, I had no idea where it was going to go. I just wanted to say this: because I've been focusing so much on authenticity, on character, and this week I want to talk a lot about openness, I felt quite closed. I've felt very triggered by what's going on in my environment around me, and I look at the examples of leadership out there, and it frustrates me, it angers me, and I look at people who purport to be experts, who purport to have the answers, and then they talk the biggest load of shit. And quite honestly, it's closed me off, and so I catch myself becoming closed, guarded, angry, reactive, and shutting down my openness, and that's not a good thing, right? So as a coach, I need to be open. When I sit down with a client, I cannot be closed, I cannot be opinionated, I cannot be judgmental, I cannot be formed in my thinking. I need to be completely open for what comes up in that coaching session. I need to be completely available without prejudice, preconception, preoccupation, just open. As a leader, I've got to be that too. Otherwise, I'm forcing all of my concepts and my projections onto other people. That's not fair. So I've really been working hard, and it's I have to say, in all openness, I've been in a lot of pain, because I'm observing how closed and reactive people are, how frustrated people are, and how scared people are. By circumstances, by COVID-19, by work, by losing work, by cut salaries, by furloughs, by the dragging, unending experience of COVID, and how that is causing people to react in a very guarded, protective, reactive way, which I understand. I mean, I really, I get it, right? It's scary, and so we've got to protect ourselves. But here's for me the conundrum, not the conundrum. Here's for me, herein lies the paradox, right? Becoming closed when I, as a leader, am triggered by people around me, by circumstances, causes more closedness. Because if they're closed and I close off, then there's no openness. There's no openness in my being. There's no openness in my thought. There's no openness in my availability. There's no openness in possibility, or for possibility, potential. Then we're left with nothing. We're left with reaction. We're left with protection. We're left with the needing to kind of have our guard up. And that doesn't build relationships. It doesn't invest in the possibility of the relationship in the future. So as a leader, I've got to risk being open when I least want to be. I look at the leadership of our country. I look at the leadership I've used this example so many times. You look at the USA at the moment, and their leadership struggles, and how closed and guarded and reactive the leadership of the United States is. And then you look at the leadership of New Zealand, and no leadership is perfect, right? So I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but what's interesting is the leadership in New Zealand is so vulnerable and open, even at the worst times. And because of that, they're having a different experience to what the Americans are, to what we are in South Africa. And so, for what it's worth, I just wanted to put it out there. And like I said, I didn't know where this was going to go today. I just needed to speak and open myself up, because what I've realized is I've become closed. And so I needed to open myself up. And so the challenge is more for me, and for you, if you like, to just risk being open and just risk being vulnerable. And yes, that could potentially result in hurt. It'll definitely result in pain, but from that pain comes growth. From that openness comes the ability to see potential, to be our best, to connect with another human being. And as a leader, that's our job. We've got to connect with the human beings that we work with, so that we can inspire the best in them. So I'll end it there. It's just my challenge to myself, and then by virtue, my challenge to you, by virtue of that, is the challenge to you is to say, drop your guard. As simple as that. Drop your guard. I know what it'll take. It'll take a lot of discomfort. It'll be uncomfortable. It'll be potentially painful. It'll be very risky, scary. I know what it'll take to drop your guard. Drop your guard. Be vulnerable, be open, and look for potential. What kind of leader would that make you? Okay, that's nearly 10 minutes. I'll cap it there. Have a great week.